So I always tried to stay busy, and like I would put in these long hours, like I was going to move the needle on something. And what I realized as I got older and older, that it like really wasn't at all about the hours. It was about the effectiveness of what you're doing. And that is
Ooh.
definitely something I just did not understand. I remember distinctly having those days where I was doing 4 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night, and I'm just like, oh, I'm grinding away.
How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Welcome to another episode of the Tactical Empire. Today I'm here with Sean Ryder. What's up, my man? How are you, buddy?
Jeff, I'm good. We're coming out of the long weekend here, so people will be listening after Memorial Day weekend, but plenty of family time. Weather's been good. Today might be a little rainy, so we're going to miss the pool. But whereabouts in the United States are you and the Smith family?
Southern St. Mary's, Georgia. So right on the Georgia-Florida line.
And by the time they're listening, you're gone. You're about to head out this week, right?
We will have vanished from Georgia. Yes.
How was Jekyll Island? Did you reverse the Federal Reserve creation while you were there?
I wish I could have done that. That would have been my greatest legacy left on earth. I could happily die after that.
I can see the clickbait headline now. Father of four RVing has overturned the Rockefellers. And
yeah, if I had that kind of power, I don't know that we'd be doing this podcast. I'd be gone somewhere.
Hey, put it out in the universe. You never know. If we could at least get a rate cut, that would be nice. I'll have a little bit high-fiving to the Fed if we can get one. Let's get
There's
one.
No doubt about that. No doubt.
All right. Brother, I mean, busy time in your life, busy time in my life, busy weekend, people celebrating, hopefully remembering and not forgetting, those that have given their sacrifices. But one thing that I want to talk to people about coming out of the holiday, and maybe they drank a little too much, maybe they ate a little too much, maybe they got off some of their consistent habits. You and I believe we do things a little bit different, but we both are creatures of habit, and we talk about 90-day planning, and we talk about structure, and we talk about schedule. But looking back over the years, what have been some of the smallest daily habits that have made the biggest impact in your life? So things that, say some things that numerous people may do, but if you have one or two that made a big impact on you that might be unique for your situation, we'd love to hear that, but I'll let you take it wherever you want.
I think mine are very simple. I mean, I drink a gallon of water, which every single day, which sounds really silly, but it's definitely the most consistent streak that I have. And working out somehow, some way, whether it's just moving your body or walking or stretching, something like that. And then for me, writing down my critical tasks for the day. That's the biggest game changer, because I truly think that the other stuff is nice. It keeps you healthy. It makes you feel better. You're cognitively more aware. But the actual critical tasks are how I live with intentionality and keep everything moving. And so and I think that's where before in my previous life, when I was in the corporate world or whatever, maybe I wasn't that deliberate with that level of intentionality. But being very cognizant of my critical tasks and getting them done on a daily basis are what starts stacking your momentum. Yeah. And making sure that you're getting things done, and you're not in the same place 90 days from now that you were 90 days prior. And so that, I think a lot of people suffer from those lulls.
Yeah. Now, how do you define a critical task? Because I think, sometimes inside the inner circle, we're posting on Mondays about critical tasks for the week. And the number one I always write is like daily healthy habits. And I believe that you don't count those as daily tasks. Those are just your habits that you have to get done. But Correct. It's always the one that I write first. So what is a critical daily task to Jeff Smith? And what is like the minimum number that you have to hit on a daily basis? And what is your maximum number that you have to hit on a daily basis?
Man, I don't really subscribe to the fact. I don't feel, some of the people out there say you should be a hardline guy about how many you're doing, whether it's 3 or whether it's 5 or whether it's somewhere in between. But the idea is not to set too many. Don't make it like a to-do list. And also you don't want to fail at it, because it plants seeds of doubt and discontent in your achievement. And so what you're trying to do is build confidence in yourself, right? So whatever that number is to you that you can conceivably get done. And so to your first question, a critical task is something that moves you forward in a meaningful way, whether it's business or finance or something like that. So to your point about daily habits, yes, I have like 10 or 12 daily habits that get done every day. Those aren't the critical tasks. The critical tasks are moving projects forward that I'm working on right now. So right now, one of mine is to schedule a camera audio visual guy to give. We need 3 bids for the storage facility, because we're trying to put up security systems that are adequate for what we're doing. And our electrician is working in there right now. So it's the time to get the security guy out there to see how much it's going to cost and what the competitive bids are. So like that, if I say schedule 3 security guys for Friday, that would be a critical task. And so it's something to meaningfully move forward what you're working on.
And so actually the timeline to set those is what, the day before, the morning of, because like you can have an idea of what that week's going to look like. But you can't set the critical task for each single day if one leads into the other. So how far out are you setting your critical tasks? When are you looking at your calendar? Do you just add them to your calendar? Do you have a notepad? What is your actual like small tactical method on how to keep these in front of your face? When do you write them down? Where do you write them down at?
Right now I'm using notes on my phone. And so because they allow you to do bullet point lists, which I love, because I like checking shit off. Like that gives me the dopamine rush that I need. I've used notebooks forever, but now that we're on the road, I don't really.
You don't have space.
Yeah, I don't have the same desk space that I used to have. So everything is like collapsible. So I do it on my phone now. So I get up at dark. I walk around by myself, and I drink coffee and I think about what I have to do that day, and I make the list on my phone. So I'm using my phone for it now.
I love that. I'm going to steal your thunder for a second and bring in one of my tasks. It is a healthy habit task, but I think it's one that I didn't do in the past that I've really done over the past 3.5 years since we moved out of a neighborhood and into, the small neighborhood that we have with way more space and only 2 streets is, as soon as my family leaves in the morning, I take my dogs on a walk. So it's not the first thing I do when I wake up, but it's the first task I have when I have my free time. And that's not the only walk I'm going to get in on a normal day. Now, the summertime with the heat and the dogs, I try not to walk them more than once or twice. So early morning walk with the dogs, and then at least another walk by myself or with the dogs. And that comes from when me and my wife went to Rome in Easter of 2019. I wanted to go see the Colosseum, and the Colosseum was cool, but that led into we had a private tour guide took us over into Caesar's Palace and the market area and the Forum, I guess it would be called. And I remember standing there, and they feed you all this information, but it's kind of like when I go to seminars or listen to a podcast, I'm looking for that 1 or 2 things that stick out to me. Sure. And the one thing that stuck out is we were looking at this garden in Caesar's Palace, and all you could see was it was a long grass rectangle, and you could just see the base of these columns that lined the inside of this rectangle. And it was probably only about like 4 feet of the column. But she said, hey, this is where the Caesar would come if he had a hard decision to make. And he would either walk or he would just ride his horse around in circles. And like, dude, that like I left Rome and was like, I need to do that. Like, I need to walk my neighborhood. We have it's called Blandy Experimental Farm. It's run by the University of Virginia locally, and they have it's like horticulture, and they have all these plants from all around the world and different trees. And I would take my dogs out there and just walk the mile and a half loop. So a daily walk, I know we said on other podcasts, like that's for your health, but I think you and I are framing it this way. Like, it's actually for us to organize our minds.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more, man. I'm a huge walker. Like I take multiple walks throughout the day just to gather yourself. I mean, I live with 4 kids, so I get scatterbrained a lot, and but we all do. We're inundated with tons of things all the time, inputs to like distract us. I think that that's important. Whatever you do, whatever your method is for gaining clarity on what you're trying to do. Like establishing your vision. You posted something about that yesterday and I commented on it, but like, I think that that's where most people miss the mark on like truly thinking about what they actually want and getting clear on it. Just because we're busy enough to just go through life. I mean, like you literally could respond to everything that is necessary every day and end up 75 years old. And I mean, I did a previous podcast on that solo and that I think dropped today. And the reality of it is like life's passing us by no matter what. And so like, if you don't spend time thinking about what you actually truly want and get clear on it and then go get it, you're going to get somebody else's dream or whatever that saying is, right? So I love walking that you added that in. That's good. For sure.
Well, I think that comes back to your critical task, like actually defining what is critical, because in a world where we're inundated with people can connect with us anytime, I don't think the human body and human mind was meant to know what was going on in the world 24/7, but also like imagine how like people can't disconnect from work now. Whereas, 40, 50, 60 years ago, people would come home from work and they would be home from work. They wouldn't have email. They wouldn't have phone calls. They wouldn't have text messages. They wouldn't have the pings on their phone. So I think defining critical, because when you don't define critical, then everything is urgent in today's world. And when everything's urgent, you have no time, 1, to define what you want, 2, work on the bigger, most important things that are going to move the needle, the bigger rocks of your life. 3, you're just going to get burnt out because it's like, man, I have it. The list never stops. Actually, the list does stop, but the list of important things stops that day or that week. And you have to build in that space. So that goes back to one of the small things that I did. You and I both have gone through strategic coach with Dan Sullivan. We kind of talked about this, how they break out days into, buffer days, focus days, and rest days, or free days. They call them free days. And I texted you, went through that program years ago. I'm going through it this year. And I texted you after the first workshop for the year. And I was like, I get it. I like it, but I don't break it out in days because I have freedom of my schedule. So I break it out in free time, buffer time, and focus time on my schedule. So the way that to kind of answer some of the questions I asked you, like my critical task list is actually on my phone calendar, and I just color coordinate things: blue, orange, or purple. Things that are minor, that are super consistent, that might need to get done today, but don't need it, are in blue. And then things that are more urgent and critical are orange. And then other things that kind of on the line of those that just need to get done, but aren't really going to move the needle, but I know I need to get them done. They're in purple. So it's kind of like, but I hardly put anything super critical back to back because I need that buffer time, whether it's true buffer space or free space. I personally don't want to sit at a desk for 3 to 4 hours and get work done. I'd rather do something high productive, high efficient right now in the next 30 to 60 minutes. And then I want some time back to myself. Not saying I couldn't sit down and do work. I've certainly done that at times, especially if I'm catching up on a lot of admin stuff or accounting. But I think another small habit that I have had is build in the buffer time, build in free time, and mentally just be okay with mental rest and physical rest. Coming from a huge fitness background, like taking complete days off from doing anything. I'll still do my walk with the dog, so it's not like I'm a couch potato, but not elevating the heart rate or not lifting weight for 1, potentially 2 days a week. Getting 2 days is really hard for me, so I'm not fully committed to 2 rest days. But that's been huge for me. And I'll throw out one more there before we wrap up. If there's any more that you want to throw out, I haven't woken up to an alarm clock in like 5 or 6 years. So how obnoxious are alarm clocks? Like, they're brutal. And if I do have to set one, it's now like a Italian Tuscany, like slow violin. So it's like gentle. It's not like, I remember in college at App State when we had winter gym where we had to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning in the freezing -degree cold to walk to the football field house for brutal winter workouts. Me and my roommates would wake up to a Disturbed song, like an aggressive Disturbed song at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, well, why did we do that? It was the most obnoxious way to wake up. So what about you? You wake up to an alarm clock?
What a cortisol response.
Yeah.
No.
Danger, fright all around us.
No, I have not used an alarm clock in 20 years, maybe. Admittedly, my sleep is better now, but like for a long time, I didn't sleep past like 3 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning. And so it's totally normal for me to be awake at all hours. And still to this day, I just don't use an alarm clock at all. I get up when I feel like getting up. I have a lot less stress than I used to, I think, or different. Maybe I manage it differently.
Yeah, you manage it differently. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that one of the things that you said that sparked my interest was about the important things and having boundaries, and like the list never ends, whatever. That is one of the things that I did not get 15 years ago at all, I don't think. When I was a real young entrepreneur, I was like, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. So I always tried to stay busy. And like I would put in these long hours, like I was going to move the needle on something. And what I realized as I got older and older, that it like really wasn't at all about the hours. It was about the effectiveness of what you're doing. And that is definitely something I just did not understand. And maybe it was ego. Maybe it was like, I don't know what it was at the time, but that was, I remember distinctly having those days where I was doing 4 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night. And I'm just like, oh, I'm grinding away. And I was getting fucking nothing done. I was spinning my wheels. Like, I mean, maybe my place was the cleanest place in town, but besides that, I didn't have much that doesn't pay the bills or put food on the table. And so, having those boundaries and actually understanding, like when I talk about these critical tasks, I thank you for asking what, like, define them. I don't have a clear definition except that it should move you in the direction of your goals or your vision. And it's an activity that moves you towards that. And so like that is, it needs to be meaningful. It's not like, okay, I want to live till I'm 120, so I should work out today. That's a habit. And those are bundled in your actual habits that keep you structured.
The difference between a daily habit and a daily or weekly critical task. I love that. Yeah. One's going to get you to live longer, better, and the other is going to actually help you reach your goals outside of living longer, better.
My short-term goals.
Awesome. Love it. 2 things I want to say there is, I say this on mentor calls a lot because people book 30-minute calls or 60-minute calls. And I tell them on day one, I have to tell them this often because we get very efficient on those calls. And I'm like, look, you're not paying for quantity of time. You're paying for quality of time. And so if we find your next action item and critical task in the first 10 minutes, then the call's over. Like we can banter for the next 5-10 minutes if you want, if that makes you feel better, but you have what you need to do. So go do it. So that's one thing I want people to hear is like, when you're in a mastermind or have a one-on-one coach or mentor, like don't look at the value of the time in regards to quantity of time. It's the quality of time. So I like that a lot. But to wrap up here, I mean, we're looking at write things down, whether it's on your phone or a notepad, give yourself space, go for walks, define critical tasks outside of your daily habits. I think all of those are huge positive steps that people can take. And to end it with this is like, especially talking to the men, goes back to what you said about being the young entrepreneur and hustler grinder from 4 in the morning until 9 at night. It's like, we still see those types of people come into the inner circle. And what I ask them is like, hey, are you mentally tough? Yeah. I'm mentally tough. I'm like, cool, take 2 days off. No. Then you're not mentally tough because you haven't gotten there to say that that's okay. Now, do we want you to take 2 days off all the time? Like, no, because over time it's about learning when you need those and how to build those in to keep your pace strong. But whether it's physical or mental rest, if you can't take it, then you're not mentally tough. And at the end of the day, that's not what's in your best interest. So you have to recognize that. And Jeff and I both lived through that, especially in our definitely in our 20s, but maybe in our early 30s as well. As we progress through our 30s, I think we've matured a little bit. And as we said on this podcast, build in the time.
Yep.
Define your time, define your guardrails, define your guidelines, and stick within those critical tasks. Jeff, send the people out.
Guys, I hope this was a helpful episode. Hit us up on the Tactical Empire community on Facebook. Send Sean and I a DM if you have any questions. We usually master infinite banking, real estate, and those type of things. But professional and personal development, let us know if you have any questions, need held accountable, or need anything from us, quite frankly. Have a great week.
Yeah.
Kick ass. Knock out some critical tasks.